Welcome to Short Movie Channel. The movie starts with a family of four: Carl, his wife Amanda, their daughter Rose, and her brother Art. They're on the beach, enjoying their vacation. Suddenly, young Rose notices a large ship out at sea coming closer to them. She keeps watching it as it gets very close to the shore. Rose tells her mom that the ship is approaching fast. Amanda looks and sees the ship really is getting too close, so she panics and tells Carl and Art they need to leave the area immediately. After that, everyone on the beach is evacuated. Carl finds out from a security officer that several ships have gotten lost at sea and crashed into many beaches due to a sudden malfunction in their navigation systems. Later, Carl's family returns to the house they rented. They notice the internet is down, and the TV has no signal. They're confused by what's happening but assume it's just a temporary outage and it'll be fixed soon. So, they spend the day at the house, making the most of their time together. That night, Carl and Amanda are sitting and talking when someone knocks on the door. Carl opens it and finds a man named Scott with his daughter Reese. Scott apologizes for coming by so late and introduces himself, saying he's the actual owner of the house they're staying in. He explains that he was the one who had been emailing Amanda about the rental. He also tells them all communication systems are down, which is why he couldn't contact her earlier. Amanda seems uncomfortable and skeptical of his story, but Carl decides to let them in because it's really cold outside. Scott explains that he and his daughter were on their way back to the city after attending a party when the power suddenly went out across the entire city. All traffic lights stopped working, and they ended up stuck on the road for a long time. That's when they decided to come to the house and spend the night there. Amanda is still suspicious and tells him they're on vacation and just wants some privacy. Scott says he understands and offers to give her back the money she paid for the rental. Amanda thinks he's trying to kick them out of the house, but Scott assures her that's not the case. He just wants to sleep in the basement for the night and, in return, he'll refund half the money she paid. He opens a small cabinet, pulls out an envelope with $1,000 inside, and gives it to Carl. Carl accepts the money and agrees to let them stay the night. Amanda, clearly upset, leaves and goes to her room. Carl follows her, and she tells him she suspects Scott might not even be the real owner of the house. Carl suggests they go talk to Scott again and ask him more questions to make sure he's telling the truth. Amanda agrees. They sit down with Scott and Amanda asks him for his home address in the city and also about his wife. Scott gives her the address and explains that his wife is currently on a business trip in Morocco because she works in the antiques trade. While they're talking, Rose turns on the TV, and suddenly they all realize the country has entered a state of emergency. A mysterious message is broadcast, saying that all radio and TV stations will go off the air because of the emergency. Amanda now feels convinced that something very strange is going on, and she agrees to let Scott and his daughter stay. The next morning, Amanda wakes up and finds several messages on her phone. The messages say that a group of hackers has breached the security systems of all the power companies and is responsible for the blackout across the entire country. She rushes to wake Carl up and show him the messages, but when he grabs the phone, all the messages have mysteriously disappeared. He's confused by what's going on and says he'll go into town to buy a newspaper or find someone local who might have more information. Meanwhile, Rose is sitting in the yard, feeling upset that the TV isn't working. Suddenly, she sees a huge number of deer standing at the edge of the garden. Back in the house, Amanda tells Scott about the messages that came to her phone and then disappeared. The messages said hackers were behind everything that's been happening. Scott tries to reassure her, saying the hackers will be caught just like they have been in the past. He tells her about an incident back in 2000, when a virus spread across phones and computers. It came in the form of messages sent to people, and once someone clicked the message, all their data would be hacked. That virus caused a massive disruption and billions in losses. Eventually, the government tracked it back to just 2 teenagers, and arrested them. After that, Scott asks Amanda about Carl. She tells him that Carl went to the city to find out what's going on. So Scott says he'll go too and ask the neighbors, maybe they know something. At the same time, Carl is on his way to the city, but he gets lost. He tries to turn on the radio or the GPS to find his way, but neither of them works. He ends up getting out of the car, hoping to find a phone signal. Just then, the radio turns on, and a news report says that the ongoing breach has caused a disaster, and this disaster is affecting the behavior of animals and birds. Then the radio cuts off again, and he doesn't hear the rest of the broadcast. He gets back in his car and keeps driving. Suddenly, he sees a woman asking for help, but he doesn't understand her because she speaks Spanish. She seems scared of something and wants to get in the car with him, but he gets nervous and refuses to let her in. He leaves her and drives off. Then, out of nowhere, a plane flies toward him and releases a thick cloud of smoke. He gets really scared and doesn't know what's happening. He quickly jumps into the car and tries to escape the plane as fast as he can. Meanwhile, Scott arrives at his neighbor's house, but the place is a mess. The windows are broken, and the house is completely empty. He searches inside for anything that might help and finds a satellite phone. He tries to use it, but it still doesn't get any signal. Later, Scott heads toward the beach and sees a watch lying on the ground. He bends down to pick it up, but he freaks out when he sees someone's hand coming up from under the sand. Then he notices plane wreckage on the shore, and there are lots of dead bodies all over the place. Suddenly, another plane comes flying in his direction, about to crash. He runs as fast as he can and uses whatever he can find to shield himself. Back at the house, Rose tells her brother Art about the deer she saw. So Art goes with her to the forest to check it out. While they're walking, Art gets bitten by a strange bug, but he kills it and keeps going. They search for the deer for a long time but can't find any. So they decide to head back home. At the same time, Scott returns to the house too, and he's in really bad shape. His clothes are completely soaked. Amanda is shocked by how he looks and asks what happened. Suddenly, they hear a loud siren, so Amanda rushes out of the house to find Art and Rose and make sure they're okay. While she's looking for them, the siren stops. Then she sees her kids in front of her. They heard the same sound. She takes them and hurries back to the house. Everyone's confused and can't figure out what's going on. While they're talking, Amanda remembers the man she saw outside the supermarket. She says he was buying huge amounts of food and drinks, so he must have known what was happening. Based on her description, Scott realizes she's talking about his friend Danny. Danny's a contractor who helped renovate their house. Right then, Carlo walks into the house looking terrified. He tells them what happened to him, and shows them a paper that had been dropped from the plane. The paper is written in Arabic and says, "Death to America." But no one understands what it means. Art comes out of his room and says the paper says, "Death to America," and he knows that phrase from a game he used to play online. But he doesn't understand the rest of the message. The paper turns out to be a warning to all Americans from a group that has taken over the country. It says they have powerful explosives and are ready to use them on American soil at any moment. They demand total surrender, and if anyone resists, they'll be wiped out instantly. At that point, Amanda and Carl get really scared and decide to leave. Scott tries to stop them, telling them they might be putting their lives in danger, but they stick to their decision and leave anyway. After that, Scott's daughter becomes extremely worried about her mom, especially since she was supposed to return from her trip that same day. As they hit the road, Carla and Amanda find themselves stuck behind a huge number of cars. Amanda gets out of the car to see what's going on, only to discover the road is blocked. All the cars in front of them are wrecked, and Amanda notices they're all Tesla electric cars, brand new, fresh out of the factory. She sees that these cars have self-driving features, and that's when Amanda realizes that hackers must have taken control of their operating systems and are now remotely controlling them. Suddenly, Amanda sees a car speeding toward them from a distance. Carlo is standing on the side of the road, stunned by what's happening. Amanda runs over to him quickly and tells him to get in the car. She jumps in too, takes the wheel, and drives fast, managing to avoid a car that nearly crashes into them. She turns around and drives back the way they came. Along the road, they see even more Tesla cars, all of them seemingly under the hackers' control, creating chaos all over the streets. They head back to Scott's house and tell him everything that happened. Everyone's confused and unsure of what to do. Scott suggests they all stay at the house until they figure things out. That night, Amanda and Scott sit together and talk, while Carlo hangs out with Scott's daughter by the pool. They're all startled when a flock of flamingos suddenly land in the pool. Moments later, they hear a loud emergency siren. The sound is so intense it shatters the house windows. The birds panic and take off into the sky. The next morning, Art wakes up shocked to find that his teeth have fallen out. He tells the others that it must have something to do with the insect that bit him in the forest. Amanda gets really worried and wants to take him to the hospital, but Scott tells her that all the main roads are blocked, so it's impossible to get to a hospital. Scott decides to take Art to Danny's house, hoping he might have some medicine or first aid supplies. Suddenly, Carlo rushes in and tells them that Rose is missing. He looked for her all over the house but couldn't find her. Art says she might have gone into the woods looking for the deer she saw earlier. Amanda takes Scott's daughter, and they head into the forest to search for Rose. Meanwhile, Scott takes Carlo and Art and drives to Danny's place. When they arrive, Danny comes out holding a rifle. Scott tells him they're just there for help and explains what happened to Art. Carlo begs him to give them some of his medicine to save Art's life, but Danny refuses. He says the medicine is only for him and his family, especially since they're in a state of emergency. He raises his gun and tells them to leave immediately. Scott then pulls out his handgun and tells him they're not leaving without the medicine. Carlo gets scared and steps in between them, pleading with Danny to help. He says he understands Danny is just trying to protect his family, just like them, and even offers to give him all the money he has. Danny finally agrees, takes the money, and gives them the medicine. He also warns them that America is under a massive attack, and their best option is to find a safe bunker until the war is over. Carlo shows Danny a paper he has that's written in Arabic. Danny tells him that America's foreign policies have made it many enemies around the world, and now all those enemies have united to destroy it. Scott is shocked by what Danny says. He gets back in the car with Carlo and Art and starts heading home. On the way, Scott tells Carlo that he has a friend who works at the Department of Defense. According to him, the department has a dangerous program that could destroy a country's government at any time. The program consists of 3 phases. The first is isolation, where they cut off all communication, electricity, and shut down all major roads. The second is chaos, where they spread fear among civilians, push misinformation, and weaken the government's defense systems so the country is left vulnerable to its enemies. If both of those succeed, the third phase kicks in automatically: civil war. That's when the country is at its weakest and most exposed to any external invasion. Scott tells them they really need to find a proper shelter, just like Danny suggested. At the same time, Amanda and Scott's daughter are deep in the forest searching for Rose. Amanda notices the trail from Rose's bike and starts following it to find out where she went. They follow the bike tracks until Amanda spots a house in the distance. She starts to suspect that Rose might be inside. And she's right. Rose is actually in that house, which turns out to be an underground bunker that people use during emergencies or wars. The place is fully stocked with food, water, and everything needed for survival. Then the TV in the shelter suddenly turns on, displaying a message that the White House has been attacked. It says all the countries in the world are working together to bring down the United States, and they've joined forces to make it happen. And that's where the movie ends. If you enjoyed the movie, hit the like button and let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.